Securing AWS Lambda involves a multifaceted approach, ensuring that both the function and the environment in which it runs are protected. Here are key strategies and best practices for securing AWS Lambda functions. 1. IAM identity and access management policies. Principle of least privilege. Ensure that Lambda functions have the minimum set of permissions required to perform their tasks. Role-based access. Use IAM roles to grant necessary permissions rather than embedding OAuth credentials in your code. 2. Environment variables. Secure storage. Store sensitive information such as API keys, passwords, and other secrets securely, preferably using AWS Secrets Manager or a AWS System Manager parameter store. Encryption. Ensure that environment variables are encrypted at rest. 3. Network security. Virtual private cloud. Run Lambda functions inside a VPC for enhanced security, especially when accessing resources like RDS or EC2. Security groups and NSCLs. Use security groups and network ACL to control inbound and outbound traffic to your Lambda functions. 4. Monitoring and logging. AWS CloudWatch. Utilize CloudWatch to monitor your Lambda functions, setting up custom metrics and alarms for anomalies. AWS CloudTrail. Enable CloudTrail to capture all API calls for your Lambda functions for audit purposes. X-Ray. Use AWS SX-Ray for tracing and debugging to get insights into the behavior of your application. 5. Code security. Static analysis. Perform static code analysis to detect vulnerabilities in your code before deployment. Libraries and dependencies. Regularly update and patch libraries and dependencies to protect against known vulnerabilities. 6. Data security. Encryption. Ensure that data processed by Lambda is encrypted in transit using TLS and at rest using AWS Key Management Service KMS. S3 bucket policies. If Lambda functions interact with S3, ensure that S3 bucket policies are properly configured to prevent unauthorized access. 7. Function configuration. Timeouts and limits. Set appropriate timeout and memory limits for Lambda functions to prevent abuse and manage costs. Concurrency limits. Configure reserved concurrency to control the number of instances of a function that can run simultaneously, preventing denial of service DOS attacks. 8. API gateway security. Authorization. Use OAuth IAM roles, Cognito user pools, or custom authorizers to control access to Lambda functions via API gateway. Throttling. Set rate limiting and burst limits to protect your Lambda functions from excessive API calls. 9. Deployment best practices. Versioning. Use Lambda function versioning and aliases for safe deployment and rollback. CI/CD pipelines. Implement continuous integration and continuous deployment CI/CD pipelines with automated security checks. 10. Third-party integrations. Trusted sources. Only integrate with trusted third-party services and APIs. Security reviews. Perform security reviews and audits of third-party integrations. Tools and services for enhanced security. AWS Config. Use AWS Config to monitor configuration changes and ensure compliance with security best practices. GuardDuty. Enable Amazon GuardDuty to detect potential security threats. Inspector. Use Amazon Inspector to assess your Lambda functions for vulnerabilities.
Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates on technology.